Right guys, welcome now to Tech Tuesday, your weekly look at all things technology related within golf. And as always, loads and loads of questions to get through. So let's begin on those questions. First question here from Werners090. Is it okay for a beginner to play with blades? I myself picked up bladed clubs 3 months ago after I started golf. I feel I became a much better ball striking, much faster than my mate who started with me. I feel comfortable gaming them. But people are telling me I should use game improvement clubs. There's nothing, if you're a single handicap golfer and you're using cavity back irons, that's fine. If you start golf and you want to use blades, that's fine as well. You just got to find something that works for you. Generally speaking, cavity back irons will be easier to hit because the moment of inertia is generally higher. That means the perimeter weighting on a cavity back iron, because it's a bigger head, you can push the weight further out to the outside. That means when you hit, there's less resistance to twisting, and that will give more accuracy on shots, and it'll also give a hell of a lot more forgiveness on mishit shots as well. Bladed irons don't have the same moment of inertia, it's not the same amount of forgiveness. But if you're comfortable hitting them, and you can get control over them, then absolutely fine. What I'd always recommend is, if you want to find out, get a blade, get an iron, cavity back iron as well, and go out there and play, see which one you like more. It's a relatively simple test to conduct. I mean, you can get a relatively cheap bladed iron, a relatively cheap cavity back iron from 5-6 years ago, whatever it may be, just single irons, just test them out together, just see what you think. Question from Ricardo Critchlow. Should you be allowed to do your PGA unless you're a scratch golfer or below? So many people turn pro off between 1 and 4, and the standard of golf these days is so much higher than in the past. Tech Tuesday. I mean, it all depends what you're really looking for. I mean, the most cited example is Ian Poulter, who turned pro off 4, did his PGA, and obviously gone on to do many great things. To be honest, you're talking there, and the standard of golf is so much higher than in the past. You're talking about playing. Now, the PGA, generally speaking, isn't about playing. The PGA is about learning how to be a better coach. It's about how to manage a golf club better. It's about managing golf shops. It's about retail. It's about psychology. It's about nutrition. It's about sports science. It's all about being a rounded professional, not so much in a playing capacity, but in a professional capacity that you see at a driving range, that you see at a pro shop, that you see managing a club, that you see running businesses. It's very different spheres. So I think once you get down to 4, you've proved that you're dedicated enough and that you've got a commitment enough to golf to be able to get your handicap that low. So I don't really think that that should change, to be honest, because I think most people who turn off 4, they're not looking to get on the tour, generally speaking. They are getting into golf because they love the game. So it's not I don't think it really needs altering too much, to be honest. There's stuff within the PGA that I just think need altering, definitely, but as far as that criteria, I don't think that needs to change. There's a couple of questions on this, but I'll get around to I'll answer them all within this one question. Good English, Pete. So the question from Sean.Lemon is: GC2 and FlightScope are expensive gear. Would amateur golfers benefit from something like a screen caddy device to help them while working out how far they hit clubs, or would the weather, wind, cold give too much misleading information? Hashtag Tech Tuesday, hashtag question video. As far as stuff like Swing Caddy and SkyTrack, they're pretty good at judging distances. The accuracy there is quite good, and if you're getting it for that purpose, then yes, absolutely fine. What I would say is, if you are looking to get a launch monitor, don't just get a launch monitor to help you with your game. Get a good golf pro who has a launch monitor, so a TrackMan, FlightScope, GC2, whatever it may be, and invest in some lessons with that pro. The chances are that the money that you spend on a launch monitor, whether it be from 150 quid up to 500 quid, depending on which one you get, if you invest that money into a coach who has the technology already, generally speaking, you will see much more of a benefit. There's no point in having a launch monitor which gives you all the swing data and not being able to interpret it, and then not being able to work on that data as well. It's just not pointless. You don't want to turn into someone who's buying a launch monitor to try and improve their game. You'll put yourself in the same category as someone who's buying a driver every time it comes out to improve their driving. If you are buying it with the conjunction of using it with a professional, and you've been using a professional who has launch monitor technology, you know how launch monitor technology works, then great, if you've got the money, go for it. But if you're looking for one and you think that will improve your game on its own, it won't work like that. Get yourself a coach who already has that stuff, and then consider buying one. Another popular question here, question from Jay Gustafson 9. Seeing as you and Rick put new clubs in the bag pretty frequently, as you say, would you say it's better to constantly upgrade to the newest tech, or stick with one set and use it over time? Generally speaking, once you find some clubs that you're happy with, by all means stick with them. As is abundantly clear as such things as, say, drivers. Well, yeah, to an extent, because I generally do feel that technology does improve over the years. There's no doubt about it. There is an upgrade in quality, there's an upgrade in consistency of the technology which is going into golf clubs. But when you look at, say, a set of bladed irons is a great example from 5 years ago and a set of bladed irons today, the difference really is not that great. So there's nothing wrong with buying some clubs, and say this is the same with drivers and 3-woods, fairway woods especially. The difference between fairway woods and irons and some drivers in some cases, over the years, the difference isn't massive. I think some people can get a driver and use a driver from 5 years ago, switch to a new driver now and see big increases in distance. But that may just be the fact that they've been fitted correctly, they found the correct ball and club head combo. It's a very difficult one to say with absolute definitiveness, 100%. Stenson and the irons that he was using this year for the Open, no one questioned how amazing his ball striking was. But he was using the Legacy Forged, I think, which are a few years old now. Or was that Mickelson? It was one of the two anyway. So, there's nothing wrong with it. As far as me and Rick switching clubs in and out of our bags, we're just in a lucky situation where we have access to them. And if we're using something and we like the feel of it, we'll chuck it in the bag. There's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with switching up clubs as long as it's a positive move and you're not just chucking them in for the sake of it. There's no reason that we can't use the same clubs that we have in the bag now for the next 2 years. There's no reason. But it's just nice to change sometimes. I like new clubs. They're shiny. I like shiny things. I've said this before. Shiny, shiny, shiny. Question here from Cairns MCQ. Has tech in drivers moved on enough in the last 6 or 7 years also to warrant replacing my current TaylorMade burner? Thanks, #TechTuesday. Drivers from 7 years ago. There's quite a few. I'm on an article here from 2009, the 2009 Drivers Buyer's Guide from golftipsmag.com, and there are some drivers on here which I remember, and you know what? I remember them being very, very good. And I'm going to just point out a couple of these to show you and maybe just give you a little bit of an indication of what you could get then to what you could get now and some of the differences in between. Now, on this website, it's basically showing some of the top drivers from that year. And on here is the Callaway FT Tour. Now, that was 2009. And that was the driver that I used in the secondhand course vlog, which I filmed with Golf Bidder earlier on this year. It seems a long time ago now. I think it was back in March, maybe. And here's what it says about the FT Tour. So it says all the specs, and they're available with the Mitsubishi Rayon Fukubu shaft. Fubuku shaft, and it's $499. So top end of the market then, certainly top end of the market it would be now. Key features: fusion technology, which allows weight to be positioned in the extreme perimeter via web weighting. This ups the MOI and optimizes CG. What we like is better sound. That's reason enough to pick up the Fusion driver. The traditional shape is so refined we can't believe it's actually a composite body driver. Sounds familiar with the current driver that I'm using. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that driver is still a fantastic driver. It's still a cracking driver. I don't think it's definitely not as stable as the M2, which I'm currently hitting at the moment, the FT Tour. On off-centre strikes, it's not anywhere near as good as the M2. But that is still a fantastic driver. Certainly when you strike it well, it goes just as far as the M2. Now that is from 7 years ago. That's from 7 years ago, like the question asked. And as I go through this list, there are still some super drivers. Some really, really good drivers. So you got the Cleveland Launcher. That was a great driver at the time. Cobra L5V, LSV is it, I think? That was a good driver. The S91 Cobra, that was a cracking driver as well. What you notice about these as you read through the reviews, they say exactly the same thing. So multi-metallic design, this is the burner. It helps push weight deep and low for a higher CG and MOI. They're doing that all the time. What this is, and what this really shows when you look back at articles, is the same marketing is used from the companies that was used then as it is now. Nothing there changes. But generally, when they say a higher MOI, CG lower and further back, the difference between 7 years ago and the difference now, it's just a little bit more. That's it. But when you look at distance, or when you look at maybe not so much consistency, I do think modern drivers are more consistent than older drivers. But when you're looking at stuff like distance, there's still great drivers that were available then as they are now. The second-hand club market, you can get some brilliant deals. Like I said, from 7 years ago, that FT Tour driver was $500 when it was brought out. And how can you pick them up for now? Let me just check. So I can pick one up, just one of the top ones off eBay there, $74.99. And I'm sure there are others available. So $74.99 you can pick an FT Tour up for now. You know, that composite technology, it was $500 when it was brought out, and I know for a fact it still goes a long, long way because I've tested it this year in cold conditions. If you are willing to invest time and just have a little bit of a look around, you can pick up some great drivers. I always recommend you get custom fit, and that is something that you probably can't do with the older drivers, there's no doubt about that. Right guys, that's all I'm going to have time for now, as tonight is date night and I need to get this edited and uploaded before the young lady comes home, or I'm going to be in trouble. Right guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on my other social media platforms as well, and we will see you down here next time. Comment below, let me know what you think.